What is up, everybody? It is time for another expansion. The Boomsday expansion is going to be coming out August 7th, is what we just heard from Blizzard. So that gives us about a week as of the filming of this until it comes out. And finally, all the new cards have been announced, which means we can finally go into the cards with a clear head and begin to analyze them. So I'm going to go through all of the cards and sort of just read out what they do, give a couple quick thoughts on them. But that's going to be just about it for this video, but it will take quite a bit of time to do. I'm going to start off doing just the neutrals, depending on how we are on time when I'm done covering the neutrals. We might get into the class-specific ones, or that might be a separate video. Um, let's see how we're doing on time then. So let's go ahead and get started. So the expansion is called Boomsday Project, and it is mech themed. So lots of these new cards are going to be mechs, and we have sort of one new keyword and one common theme across the cards. So first, if we look at the new keyword, the keyword is magnetic. So let's find an example of one of those here. Yeah, so here's a magnetic card. So we'll go through this card when we do all the reviews, but basically if a card says magnetic, what that means is rather than playing it by itself the same way you play a normal minion, you could choose to instead attach it to another mech. So that sort of gives its stats and its card text to whichever mech you attach it to. So that is pretty much what magnetic means. And then the second new interaction is something called Omega cards. That's not really a key word, but it's just a theme of cards. Each class, I think, got one, where the cards do something, but then if you have 10 mana, they get a little bit more powerful. So, for example, a card might be a normal vanilla statted minion if you play it like on curve if it's a 4-cost minion, but it'll have text saying, but if you have 10 mana crystals, then it'll also do something good for you. So that's a pretty cool mechanic to sort of make these minions that you can play on curve when you need to maintain tempo, but if it becomes a control matchup, you'll get some good value out of the card still. So without much further ado, let's go ahead and get started looking at the cards. So let's start off with Whirly Glider. It is a battle cry, summon a 0/2 Goblin Bomb, and of course we do not know what a Goblin Bomb is, so let's use the internet to Google what that means. I assume Hearthstone has it. Does it really not say what a Goblin Bomb is anywhere in this? There it is. So it's a 0/2 that deals 2 damage to the enemy hero on Death Rattle. Cool. So we finally know what that is. So this is basically a 2-cost 2/1 that will drop a 0/2 that when it dies deals 2 damage to the enemy hero. Nothing seems too crazy about this. The one thing to note is if we do look at the Goblin Bomb is that it is a mech, meaning you can attach things to it using the magnetic keyword. So how good this is really depends on how strong the magnetic cards are that we have coming up, because a 2/1 body for 2 is really not great. Next up we have Unpowered Mauler. It can only attack if you cast a spell this turn. It's a 2/4 mech. I don't think it's a great card. It is mech, meaning you can attach things to it that have the magnetic keyword, but really the fact that it can only attack if you cast a spell this turn is a pretty big limitation. To only get 1 more point of health off over the vanilla statted 2/3, don't think it's going to make too many waves. Next we have Toxicologist Battlecry, give your weapon +1 attack. So these are always interesting to see, the neutral weapon boosting cards. So 2-cost 2/2. So stats aren't great, but I think it can still definitely see some play in most rogue decks. Rogues don't really have a great 2-drop right now, that's why they dagger up on 2. And I think that this could be a nice card if we compare it to, they have that 3-cost 2/4 combo, give your weapon +1 attack. So here you pay 1 less mana, get 2 less health, but you don't need that combo activator. So I think that this is a very strong card in Rogue, and maybe even in Warrior or Hunter if we expect to see weapons there. But I think in Rogue it's extremely powerful. Next we have Steel Rager, Rush Mech. It's a 5/1. So this might be one of the first Ragers that could see play. I don't know if it's going to, because 4 cost, deal 5 damage to a minion. Um, not great. It's not the worst card, but really this one will come down to what sort of magnetic cards you can attach to this. Next we have Spring Rocket. It is a 3 cost 2/1 battle cry, deal 2 damage. Um, not not a great card by itself. It's really not. Uh, 2 on body's not worth a whole lot, and dealing 2 damage is really also not worth a whole lot. Um, so don't see this one getting too much play. Next we have Spark Engine. Battlecry. Add a 1/1 Spark with Rush to your hand. So it's a 2 cost, 2/1, and I'll add this Spark, which I am going to assume costs 1, to your hand. So basically for 3 mana you're getting a 2/1 and then a 1/1 with Rush. Nothing too crazy by itself, but again this is all going to come down to the magnetic cards. There's Spark Drill. Rush with a Death Rattle, add 2 1/1 Sparks with Rush to your hand. So this is pretty similar to Steel Rager. Same stats, the only difference is you pay 2 more mana, but you get those 2 1/1 Sparks with Rush. And really these 1/1 Sparks with Rush are really essentially just vehicles for magnetic cards to attach to. Next we have Rusty Recycler. It's a Taunt Lifesteal 2/6 for 5. 2/6 for 5, not great stats. If we had a 4 cost 2/6, and we do, it does not see play. So here we basically just get Lifesteal and Mech added on for an extra mana. I do not think this is going to be a great card. That Lifesteal is not worth a whole lot. It's pretty expensive for how little impact you get. Next we have Piloted Reaper. Death Rattle, summon a random minion from your hand that costs 2 or less. So this one is pretty interesting. It's of course a play on Piloted Shredder, all of our favorite 4 cost 4/3 mech. So this one looks like it's going to come out, and I think it's gonna be a pretty strong card, because sure it's a little weaker than Piloted Shredder in the fact that you don't know, in the fact that you actually lose a card from your hand, plays it from your hand, you don't, so you do lose that card, but you do get the fact that you get to control the card, and a lot of times you'll be able to force exactly which card comes out. So you could see this being pretty strong in Shaman that has Overload minions, or really in any deck that runs a good number of 2-cost minions or below. I could see this being not a bad card. Whether it'll be as broken as Piloted Shredder, I don't think it will, but I do think it's a card that you should not sleep on. Next we have Microtech Controller. Battlecry, summon 2 1/1 Microbots. So it's a 3 cost 2/1, summons 2 1/1 bodies, so you're getting a total of 4/3 stats for 3. Nothing to write home about, it's just another card. Mekaroo. So 1/1 with Death Rattle, summon a 1/1 Joe E-Bot. So we are basically getting a neutral mech version of Possessed Villager, I think is what it was called, that Warlock card. And the Warlock card is pretty good in Zoo. Here we get the mech keyword attached. I think that this will definitely have a place in the meta. In token decks that want to just control a board, paying 1 and getting 2 minions out of it is always a good deal, especially when they have the mech keyword attached to it. Next we have Loose Specimen. Battlecry, deals 6 damage randomly split among other friendly minions. So this one is really interesting. So it has a pretty big downside. Deal 6 damage randomly split among other friendly minions. So that's really not great, because you're getting basically 1 extra stat at 5 for a 6/6. The only real use for it might be some synergy with Acolyte of Pain, but even then, you have to wonder, is it really worth it? The answer is probably no. Then we have Kaboom Bot, not to be confused with Boom Bots. So these have a death rattle that reads, deal 4 damage to random enemy minion. It's a 3 cost 2/2. I think that this is a very solid card, especially when you look at some of the magnetic minions that we have coming up, especially that 1 cost 1/1 that gives you Rush. I think that this is a strong card, and I think it will see a good amount of play. Then we have Holloman Sir. After your opponent plays a minion, summon a 1/1 copy of it. So this is not a great card, I think, because the opponent is they're just gonna kill it. Really, throughout a game, you almost always have a way to deal 3 damage out of hand, and I can't really see a situation where you'd get much value out of this, even if you have to play a minion or two before you can kill it, which again I think is very unlikely. You're still really not getting a whole lot of value out of it. The fact that if you're playing against this card, you can basically choose how it activates, I think really takes away a lot of the value. And paying 5 for a 3/3 with that weak of an effect is not worth it. Then we have Goblin Bomb. Oh, there it is. There's a Goblin Bomb we were looking for. So I guess it's also a standalone card. So Death Rattle, deal 2 damage to the enemy hero. Yeah, I mean, maybe in aggro decks with Magnetic it'll see some use, but on its own, really not great. Then we have Electrorite. Death Rattle, or sorry, it's a 3 cost 3/3 Battlecry. If you're holding a spell that costs 5 or more, gain +1/+1. So this, I don't know how I feel about this one. First of all, it's not a mech, so that's strike 1. Strike 2 is, if you're playing one of the big spell decks, so big spell mage, maybe a spiteful deck, you're getting a 4/4 for 3, which is good. Those are above average stats, but that relies on a condition. And if you're playing one of those decks, like, do you really need a 4/4 for 3? That doesn't really fit your win condition. So I think it's not going to get a whole ton of play. Then we have Damage Stegatron. It's a 6 cost 5/12 taunt with Battlecry that reads deals 6 damage to this minion. So so this is sort of like a little bit of a Injured Blade Master effect. And it's the kind of thing that you want to cheat out of your hand. You want to somehow play this without getting that effect to go off, because it's 6 cost 5/6 with taunt as a mech, not as great. So I think if there's no good way to cheat this out, then this card's not going to be great, but if we do see some good tools to do that, then maybe it has potential. Even still, it is a 6 cost card that does not have an immediate impact on the board. Then we have Cloak Scale Chemist, a 2 cost 1/2 with Stealth and Divine Shield. Don't really see a whole lot of use for this. So the obvious thing here is you can play it on your turn, and you can more or less guarantee that it stays alive with a Divine Shield going to your next turn, so you can put a buff on it, and you're guaranteed to get sort of 2 hits out of that, which is nice. But I think the stats are too weak. Really not a whole lot of reason to play it. If you want to look at similar cards, there's really nothing that similar, but we have the 1 cost 1/1, the Argent Squire with Divine Shield. Here you're paying an extra mana and you're only getting 1 health, which isn't really worth a whole lot. And you're getting Stealth, so don't think it's going to be great. Then we have Bulldozer, a 9 cost 9/7 mech with Divine Shield. Not a good card, really not. For 9 cost you expect way, way more than that. Maybe it'll find something magnetic that'll make it great, but right now on its own it is really nothing to write home about. Then we have Brainstormer, Battlecry, game 1 health for each spell in your hand. So if you have 3 spells in your hand, then you're looking at a 3/4, which is pretty strong. Still vanilla. Maybe if you have like 5 or 6 spells, if you're playing a control style deck that holds on to a lot of spells, waiting to use them for the right time, you can get some good value out of this. And maybe it'll see a little bit of play in those decks, but outside of decks like Control Warlock or Shutterwalk Shaman, I don't think that this is going to see too much play. Then we have Explodinator. It's 4 cost 3/2 Battlecry, summon 2/02 Goblin Bombs. So again, we're sort of back with the Goblin Bombs. I think that this card is a good bit stronger than Whirly Glider, which was at 2 cost 2/1 that summoned 1 Goblin Bomb. This way we pay twice as much, we get double the Goblin Bombs, and we get some more stats on our mech. So really, it's going to be interesting to see what we can actually do with Goblin Bombs. To really find out, we're going to need to see the magnetic cards first. So our first legendary, we have Harbinger Celestia. 4 cost 5/6, so overstated, but says stealth. After your opponent plays a minion, become a copy of it. So this is a really interesting card. Really well designed card. And the fact that the opponent chooses what it becomes, sort of in the same way that 5 cost 3/3 wasn't great, I think this one won't be great because your opponent again has control over it. But still a really interesting concept for a card. Next we have Crystallizer. Well, 1 cost 1/3 Battlecry, deal 5 damage to your hero, gain 5 armor. I think that this is a pretty solid card. I think that we could see this making its way into Warrior, for sure. If Warrior gets any sort of early to mid game type decks, something besides their usual just armor up forever and control. I could see this being a really strong card. That deal 5 damage to your hero and gain 5 armor is really good because for Warrior it damages your hero, which means you get off of that, forgot the name of it, but the 2 cost card that you draw for each damage character you have. So it boosts that, and then of course getting 5 armor is great, and you get a 1/3 for 1, which is fantastic. That is a very strong body. We've seen Dynamo be really successful with that, so of course I think this will too. Of course the only downside here is you can't play it if you have less than 5 health, but that's not really something that I think is worth considering, because if you have less than 5 health and you're playing a 1 cost 1/3, you're probably not going to win anyway. Next we have Coppertale Impostor. Battlecry gains stealth until your next turn. It's a 4 cost 4/4. It's mech, again, slightly understated, not a bad card. I think this one really comes down to what the magnetic cards have. Great artwork though. For that alone, it might be the best card in the set. As far as actually playing it though, let's see what we have as far as magnetics go. Then we have Skaterbot, our first magnetic. So it's a 1 cost 1/1 with Rush in magnetic. So what this basically means is you can give any of these mechs we've seen so far +1/+1 and Rush for 1 mana. So that would be a great way to activate your Goblin Bombs, and that might also be good for some of the more expensive cards we want to make sure we get value off of. There's that 9 cost 9/7 with Divine Shield. You throw this on it, and you get a 10 mana, or you get 10 damage to a minion, and then you get left with a 10/8 body. Of course, that uses 10 mana and 2 cards to do, but that's pretty strong. So I think that this is really versatile, and any deck that plays Goblin Bombs is going to need to run a couple copies of this. Next we have Bronze Gatekeeper, Magnetic and Taunt. So 3 cost 1/5, not great, but if we look at it in the context of being a magnetic card, you can give any of these magnetic minions, or any of these mech minions, +1 attack, +5 health, and taunt, which is not bad. You think of what that means, because normally when you have 5 health and 1 attack on a taunt minion, it's not great because that 1 attack's really not doing a whole lot, it's not going to kill much. But if you can add that to another minion stats, then you get a really considerably powerful taunt minion. Next we have Subject 9, another legendary. Battlecry, draw 5 different secrets from your deck. This is such a good card. This is an insanely good card, and it's a beast. Hunter's going to play this. Mage is going to play this. Maybe Paladin? I don't know about Paladin. If you think of Mysterious Challenger, this is essentially a Mysterious Challenger that won't play the cards for you, so it'll only draw them. But I think that this is an incredibly powerful card. It's a 5 cost 4/4, so same stat line as Azure Drake, Azure Drake was a very, very powerful card. Um, and this doesn't have the spell damage that Azure Drake has, but this will almost always draw you more than one card. Maybe even more than two, possibly more than three. This is an incredibly powerful card, and it's as it might be the best card we've seen so far for the decks that run secrets. Next we have Galvanizer. Battlecry, reduce the cost of mechs in your hand by one. So this is kind of a ridiculous card. So this kind of seems a little bit like Mech Warper. We all know Mech Warper was broken, but the thing with Mech Warper was it had to stay on the board for it to get its effect. This doesn't. This, you just put it down with a handful of mechs, and you essentially get an Emperor Thaurissan proc for free. And don't forget, this is a mech itself. So you can, if you have two Galvanizers in hand, the second will cost 1 mana. You can stack that effect up. This is a very strong effect, and I think every mech deck is going to run 2 copies of this. Next we have Seaphorium Bomber. Battlecry, shuffle a bomb into your opponent's deck. When drawn, it explodes for 5 damage. So 5 cost 5/5, not an awful stat line. Wouldn't play it by itself, but this is a pretty strong effect. I think we're going to see this card played in the Mill Rogues, well, not really the Mill Rogues, but that control style rogue, where they put a bunch of those 4/4 cards into the opponent's deck. I think that this will also see play in that. And I think that this is a really interesting card, especially when paired with one of the legendaries we're going to look at, that makes it so that whenever a card's shuffled into a deck that a second copy is. I don't know if that applies to this, but if it does, then this will just be broken. Next is EMP Operative, Battlecry, destroy a mech. It is not a crab, unfortunately, but it is still an answer to if mechs become way too powerful. Will this be good? Hard to tell. If mech decks take off, this will be an auto-include in every deck, because it's an assassinate with a 3/3 body. If mechs do not take off, this will be just about as useful as the rest of the crabs. Not that useful. Next we have Arcane Dynamo, 6 cost, 3/4, Battlecry, discover a spell that costs 5 or more. So, so the best thing to compare this would probably be Arcane... I forgot the name of the card. This 5 cost 6/3 said discover a spell is a mage card. But with this one, we're guaranteed to discover a spell that costs 5 or more. Is that an upside or a downside? I think that that is, in general, an upside, because if you're playing this in turn 6, you want big spells, because you have a lot of mana. And so I think that the effect is strong. The question is it strong enough to warrant the awful stat line for the cost? So I think that discovering a big spell is incredibly valuable, because you will be able to choose a spell that will, in almost every case, completely destroy the opponent's board, and you can choose which way you want to do that depending on what the board looks like. But I don't know if it's worth the huge premium you're paying for it. A 6 cost 3/4 is just not strong, and you're paying 3 mana to discover the spell. So you're basically paying 3 mana to draw a card. Of course you have to choose the card, but there's no guarantee you'll get a good spell. I don't think this is worth 3 mana. Mecha Cthun, this is a fun one. 10 cost, 10/10, Death Rattle. If you have no cards in your deck, hand, or battlefield, destroy the enemy hero. Really interesting concept for a deck. I think that there might be some sort of combo that can pull this off. I haven't figured out what it is yet, but it is mech, meaning we can make it cheaper by using the Battlecry Mech Warper thing. What are you called? Galvanizer. We can make it cheaper, and maybe some magnetic things can make it work. So let's see. Maybe this will be a fun combo deck. Is it a great deck? I don't know. It's neutral, so it can kind of fit into any class. The most important thing is that you have a way to kill it as soon as you play it, because it's kind of definitely not going to work if you don't kill it yourself, because if this becomes a deck that is actually in the meta, everybody's going to carry at least one silence, and they're going to wait for your Mecha Cthulhu to hit the board. So you need a way to play it and kill it at the same time. So let's take a look. Maybe we'll get a good magnetic for that. Replicating Menace, magnetic, summon 3/1/1 microbots as a death rattle. So it's a 4 cost 3/1. Stats aren't great. Summons 3/1/1s. That's not great. So in total, your stat line is a 6/4 for 4, which is okay, maybe. The nice thing is it is a mech and it is magnetic, so you can sort of add that 3 attack to anything. So that gives it some value. If we look at the cards that just give a minion plus 3 attack, those tend to be pretty strong, because you can use it on a minion that was played on a previous turn, so it can attack instantly. But I don't think that this is worth it on its own. Next we have Augmented Ellic. Whenever you shuffle cards into a deck, shuffle in an extra copy. Here's a 3 cost 3/4 beast. This is a card I was saying would work well with the 5 cost 5/5 that summons a mine into the opponent's deck. Play that and play this, and then you can maybe bounce things back to your hand, play them again. All kinds of weird things can happen. I think that this card will not be useful in most decks, but I think that there will be some decks that revolve around it. Next, you have Missile Launch Magnetic. At the end of your turn, deal 1 damage to all other characters. It's a 6 cost 4/4. Kind of expensive, and dealing 1 damage to all other characters I don't think is the most powerful thing. Don't think it's going to see a whole lot of play. Next, you have Mechanical Whelp, a 6 cost 2/2 death rattle, summon a 7/7 mechanical dragon. So this would be a pretty big target for silence, meaning you need to sort of kill it the same turn it comes out. So obvious way to do that is to attach that 1/1 mech that has rush, and then that way you would be paying 7 mana and 2 cards to get a 3/3 with rush that then summons a 7/7. And I don't know if that's good enough. It's certainly powerful, but for a 2-card combo, you expect to see things that are amazing, not just good. Next, we have Starliner. Let's see how far we're at. 37 out of 45. All right, almost done. So Starliner, 7 cost 7/7, which reads Battlecry. If you control 3 minions with 7 health, deal 7 damage to all enemies. It's really not great. Are you ever going to control 3 minions with 7 health at the same time? Let's say that this counts as the third, and I don't know if it does, but if it does, then still, are you ever going to control 2 minions with 7 health at the same time? If you already control 2 minions with 7 health, you're doing very well. You probably don't need this card. At the end of the day, I don't think there's anything extraordinary here. Just a card with a strong effect that you're never going to be able to pull off. Next, you have Giggling Inventor. It's a 5 cost 2/1 Battlecry. Summon 2 1/2 mechs with Taunt and Divine Shield. So we are summoning 2 Annoyotrons. The picture even has an Annoyotron. It's funny that they don't call it that. I guess it's Annoyotron's technically a wild card, so they can't really bring it back. But that's what it is, though. That's what we're looking at. So you're paying 5 and you're getting a 2/1 along with 2 Annoyotrons. So basically, this 2/1 body, let's say that the body's worth 1 mana maybe, 2/1's not great. So for like 3 to 4, you're getting 2 Annoyotrons. It's really susceptible to board clear. Defile wouldn't clear it, but I don't think that this is great. Maybe in token decks this will have a place. In token decks it very well could, but for your standard deck, I don't really see much use coming out of this. Next, we have a Weaponized Pinata, a 4 cost 4/3 with a death rattle. Add a random legendary minion to your hand. So we're basically paying for a 4/3 that says kind of draw a card. The random legendary minion is going to be worse than a card that we draw, but it could be better. Some legendary minions are pretty great, but big question mark, and I don't think that this is worth it. Next, we have our 1 cost 1/1 Faithful Lumi. Give a friendly mech +1/+1. So it's a 1/1 that gives another mech +1/+1. So you kind of get 2/2 of stats if you have another mech out. don't think it's great. 2 of stats on a 1-cost minion, not that powerful. Sure, you can do it to a mech that's already out, so you can attack instantly and you get more initiative. And sure, it's a mech itself, so you can attach things to it, make it magnetic. But I don't think there's enough here um, to warrant putting this in a deck. I can't imagine a situation where you're going to be happy when you draw this card. Next we have Wizbang the Wonderful, a 4-cost 4/5, which means you start the game with one of Wizbang's wonderful decks. So Wizbang's wonderful decks are basically just the deck recipes. This is a pretty cool card. Obviously it's not going to be in the meta, but basically what it will do is it just replaces your deck with one of the deck recipes. It's a good way for you to try out different decks if you don't own them, and if you don't have the gold. I'm happy Blizzard decided to include this so that people can get a taste of different styles of play without having to actually create all the cards themselves. So good for you, Blizzard. Next we have Zillax, a 5-cost 3/2. Those are awful stats, but look at all the keywords. Magnetic, Divine Shield, Taunt, Lifesteal, Rush. Those are basically all the keywords other than Charge. We don't talk about Charge anymore. Charge never happened. What's Charge? I don't know. Nobody knows. Charge never happened. Anyway, Zilliax. So this card is magnetic, meaning you can attach it to any of these minions and you get all of those effects. So there are so many places we could use this where it'd be pretty strong. And I mean, so the stats aren't great. Let's get that out of the way. 3/2 for 5 is not great, but we can attach that to just one example, the Goblin Bomb, the 0/2. We attach this to it, so we pay 5 mana, which is not cheap, but then that would become a 3/4 with Divine Shield, and Taunt, and Lifesteal, and Rush. So you could instantly attack into something, and you'd lose your Divine Shield, but you'd deal 3 damage, you'd restore 3 else to your hero, and you'd have Taunt, and you'd have a 3/4 weapon left, a 3/4 minion left on the board with Lifesteal. I think it's an okay card. I think it'll make its way into a lot of decks. Next we have Upgradable Framebot. As the name implies, not a great card on its own. 2-cost, 1/5 mech. It's a card that if you attach magnetic things to, it could become good. It has high health, so it'll survive, and it'll probably warrant removal if you attach something decent to it. But on its own, not a fantastic card. Next we have War Gear. It's a 5-cost 5/5 magnetic, so it's essentially a Blessing of Kings, but everything is up by 1, and it only works on mechs, and it's neutral. Blessing of Kings is a solid card. I think that this could be a solid card, because at the end of the day, you can play this on a mech the turn after you play the mech, so you get that initiative. Finally, last card of the neutral set is Omega Defenders, our first Omega card. So these are the cards that get better if you play them after turn 10. So Omega Defender is a 4-cost 2/6 taunt. So stat line that is not the worst, but not great on its own. But it says Battlecry. If you have 10 mana crystals, gain +10 attack. So if you play this on turn 10 or later, it becomes a 12 attack, 6 health minion. This is absurdly powerful. A 12 attack, 6 health minion for 4. You need to instantly remove it. It's going to be in a lot of decks. I can't think of a deck that expects to get to turn 10 that this would not fit in. I think that where this will do the best is in the decks that aim to control the board early on, but then become extremely aggressive, like around turn 10 to 15, before control decks can really get everything turned in their favor. Because as soon as this goes down, it needs to be removed instantly. Because that 12 attack, 6 health is going to keep coming at your face over and over. And against aggro decks, a 4-cost 2/6 with taunt early on, if you can't wait until turn 10, still pretty potent. That'll take care of a lot of the small minions aggro decks like to throw at you. So I think that's gonna be it for this video. We were not able to get into the class-specific minions and spells because time is a thing that is not infinite. But But I think looking at the neutrals, we saw a lot of cool cards. I think that magnetic is a very cool keyword, and it really changes the way you think about the game. It makes these cards pretty hard to judge. So it'll be really fun to see where the meta goes after this comes out in a week. But hope you enjoyed looking at the usual cards, and see you all next time.